Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the last day of the 16th Regulators and Policymakers Retreat. It gives me great pleasure that the last plenary session, which is going to discuss this very interesting, never-ending, long concept of the idea of India and the epochal shift, if any, with I think, the most amazing panel. On one side, we have Professor Madhav Gadgil and his thoughts, his perspectives. Then we have our former ambassador to the United States, Meera Shankar, traveled the world, represented our country. She's represented India. And then we have Tom Alter, who is one of the few people I really, really admire, and I have been able to do it from a distance since I was a junior bacha in the Institute of Film School. To those of you who don't know Tom Alter, he can speak better Hindi and Urdu than all of us put together. And the reason for that is I think he spent most of his life, if I'm not wrong, in Missouri, in Woodstock in the early days, and is an accomplished theater and film actor, besides a million other things, which you'll come to know as we go along. So looking at the idea of India from these three perspectives. And then we have Meeta Goswami, who made the cardinal mistake of leaving the World Wildlife Fund and joined us. So now I say that the World Wildlife Fund is now become, after joining us, World Wildlife Fund. So, but getting back to the subject and my introductory remarks, I just want to say a couple of things. Devdutt Patnaik said there is not one India. And he said there are different Indias. And the idea of India is not a single idea. India remains one of the strangest combinations of social structures that there is on the planet at this point in time. We use the concept of democracy, which was used in city-states, and then we've gone and supplanted it on 1.2 billion people. Of course, there are going to be gaps. There are gaps. But the fact is that we talk about democracy where everyone is equal, which is against the laws of nature, by the way. If you remember, we showed you that movie which Devdutt and I had put together, which talks about the law of the jungle, which respects meritocracy. The rule of law is he who is strongest and the fittest survives. But unfortunately, we human beings have this terrible disease called compassion and karuna, where we are very concerned about the other and we want to empower the weakest. And that raises some challenges. And so 1.2 billion people today have aspirations. And believe me, a large part of them are very young people. And young people are impatient. And young people want things as of yesterday. And they want everything that they can think of, that they see on television and media and whatever. So you as regulators and policymakers have a huge, huge job. And as I said, and I'm repeating myself, you guys are not regulators. You must have heard of a Superman, but you guys are supermen. Because on the one hand, you have to take care of the consumer. On the other hand, you have to take care of the investor. And I'll give you a classic example of a project. The project was called Scythe Energy, located in Calgary, in Canada. These guys came in, bid, and set up a 500 megawatt, 250 into 2 machine plant at 5 cents. Everything was fine. Calgary wanted power. They were desperate. And the state was bustling because they had the tar sands in Canada, and they were very excited about it. Then a strange thing happened. two mothballed nuclear power stations, Darlington and Bruce, if I remember correctly. It's a 10, 15-year-old story. They started up and offered power at 1.5 cents. So the result was that competition was good, but it killed a brand new project. So Scythe Energy actually, I don't know what happened to it later. At that point in time, we're thinking of just not starting the plant at all. So billions of dollars of investment went down the drain. The point I'm trying to make is there was a comment yesterday that Section 63 and 62, competition is good. And I also slightly suggested that competition is a great idea, but there has to be perhaps a regulation of that competition. We can't go overboard on competition. So you have the late Ghulam Vahanwati's opinion that you need not have only competitive bidding. You have a Supreme Court ruling that competitive bidding is not the only route. You have now a Crystal report sitting in FOR saying that perhaps competition has failed to deliver. I mentioned my arguments with T.L. Shankar in 1996, where I said competition is not going to make it work. The power sector is different. Yes, you can have competition for the fixed charges, but when 2/3 of the cost of electricity is fuel, it's difficult to have competition. And exactly that is exactly what happened in the case of Adani Tata's mega projects when they had a single tariff bid. Having said that, I want to also say that the reason why we had these plenary sessions is for regulators to get an opportunity to hear different voices across the board, across society, to figure out as to what is happening. What is the feeling? What is the emotion? What is the sentiment of the people? What are their wants? What are their aspirations? Ye hawa kis taraf ja rahi hai? Where are we going? And with a note of optimism, let me say that I think regulators and policymakers must interact with the people and must get a sense of what they are doing and where they are going, because otherwise they're likely to lose track. There are hundreds and thousands of examples in history where the rulers, or shall we say the policymakers, have not been in touch with the reality and have lost their bearings, if I may say so. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over this session to the World Wildlife Fund, Meeta, and if that's okay with you, Professor Saab, aapki ijazat, Meera, Tom. And we're all going to sit down quietly and listen to some of the best minds on their points of view on what is the idea of India and what is the epochal shift, if any, in the context of the idea of India after the last elections, where there was an overwhelming vote for development. I won't delve into development right now, but that's what is interesting. So over to you, Meeta.